Hello, welcome back. We are on day one of Precious Metal Summit here in Beaver Creek, and I'm with Jim McDonald, the President and CEO of Kootenay Silver. Jim, good to be with you.
Nick, good to be here.
Look, you haven't been on the channel before, so why don't you give a brief overview as to who the company are, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, so Kootenay Silver is a junior exploration company focused on the discovery of silver deposits in Mexico. We've made a number of discoveries, giving us a total resource base of 212 million ounces of silver equivalent in the M&I and another 54.9 in the inferred category in 3 different deposits. And we're in the middle of a 4th discovery here that's more exciting than anything we've done in the past. A classic high-grade vein system in Mexico. It looks like a new vein district, in fact, and that's called the Columba project.
Okay. And just before we carry on, why don't we do just a quick overview of the cap structure as it stands?
Yeah, so just over 60 million shares issued on it. We're trading the last 90 days an average of about 250,000 shares a day. We correlate quite a bit with the price of silver, so when there is a bid in the silver market in general, you'll see that daily volume up over 500,000.
Yeah, okay. First question, obviously you've got 3 deposits, over 200 million ounces of silver in the ground. Why go after another deposit?
Well, 2 of the 3 start to look interesting at today's silver prices, close to $30, like $29, $30. At 20, they don't make sense.
Okay.
So we've prepped those projects and updated their 43-101 resources in them so they're ready to advance in a strong silver market and sustained market above 30 when we're going to get paid for investing in it.
Yep.
And but in the meanwhile, we've made this new high-grade discovery, and those high-grade discoveries work in any kind of silver price.
Okay, so essentially this new project is a few yards ahead of, in terms of the quality of the grade, and the whips and and whatnot. It looks a bit more appealing in terms of economic sense down the line. Well, why don't we talk a bit about that, because you've been drilling quite a lot. I think you've put quite a few meters into this already, and you've just planned another 20,000 meters. Am I thinking?
Yeah.
What has encouraged yourself and obviously the shareholders and the investors that have put money into this? Talk us a little bit about the results that you are seeing here and why it was so appealing to carry on and continue drill testing this.
Yeah, so when we first got in this project, we picked up an option to earn 100%. We now have that 100% as of a year ago. And what attracted us to it were the historic results from some mining from 1900 to 1910 on one vein. There's several veins there that were exposed at surface. It showed very consistent high-grade results in 7 different levels, and they had a shaft down 200 meters. So that got us attracted to the project. And first thing we did was to drill across that old mine to confirm those numbers, and we certainly have. Then we started to explore the other veins we saw at surface. And what come to the fore in that whole process is that we learned a lot about the property. And what we recognize is that the way it's exposed, it has barely been eroded. So it sits in an old volcano. So you've got a classic cone like this, a cone in the volcano, and the veins run right across the middle of that, down and up both sides. And it goes 4 kilometers one way and 3 kilometers the other way. But the thing is that your vein development only really starts down here at the bottom of that cone. So any elevation that's higher, you don't really see a good vein developed. So how it shows itself at surface is a lot different than what it actually is underneath. So it's kind of hiding itself at surface because you don't see the good veins. You have to drill down to them, but they're there. And so we've established that over the last 4 years of work, that we've got this vein district emerging. And it's of the scale, 4K by 3K, to be of a project, similar projects in Mexico that are 100 to 300 million ounce plus in size. So it's got the scope for that sort of thing. Then we started drilling all these other veins, and we're really concentrating on one we call the D vein right now. We extended it this year from 450 meters to 1 kilometer in length. Consistent hits all the way along. But what's quite interesting about it, we're getting some spectacular intercepts there. Like prior to this program, our deepest hole was 34 meters at 0.5 kilo.
Wow.
that included almost 10 meters of 1,700 grams per ton, as an example. So fat, high-grade zones in here. So when you start to see those quartz veins bulge out like that, you're going to be building a lot of ounces quickly. And it's classic of these kind of vein systems, because these vein systems around the world will typically have like a key structure, or maybe it's 3 or 4 key structures that hold the vast majority of the ounces for the whole district. But those key structures make everything else work. So this D vein looks like one of those for us.
Okay, and talk to me about how much work's been done to date, because what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to look at this presentation, and we'll overlay some of the slides on the screen, so for those who are watching can see it. But when we spoke earlier, you showed me this cross section, and obviously you've done a lot of drilling here on
D vein,
on the D vein. But it like you were saying, it's a kilometre long here. It seems like this, as you're saying, this really needs to be tested further, doesn't it? In terms of the
Yeah, well, because you have that vein, but you also have all of this. And where there are no dots, we haven't even drilled yet. And so first step is to go laterally until you see this thing kind of close off, and then go to depth until you see it close off. Get enough density of drilling along this, which is going to be roughly 100 meter spacing at the widest on average, and that'll be enough for an inferred resource.
Okay. So
we'll start there. So first you just want to see where it closes off the mineral in all directions, and then get enough pierce points inside density drill holes to be able to do a calculation.
Okay. And what's this analogous to in terms of other deposits? Not maybe in Mexico. In terms of kilometre long, and you're finding these really high grade zones and over decent widths. Obviously it's still early, you've got to do a lot more drilling, but what's this similar to in terms of what you've seen in the past? Are there any sort of analogies that you can think of?
Yeah, well, it's a classic vein system, an intermediate sulfidation type, which is pretty common in Mexico.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of districts it has similarities to. So more recent discoveries that are familiar to maybe the investing community would be the Coppola-Vizsla discovery. When they first came out with a resource around 100 million, they found another zone that doubled it, and now it's 300 million in size. So that scope, potential. Another example is the Las Chispas mine of Silvercrest, which has been in production for a few years now.
Yeah.
And it was a new discovery about 10 years ago or less. And it's similar kind of footprint. And I think their resources are around 140 million and the reserves are around 80. And so same kind of scale of vein district, similar. And in that case, there's a key area that has 80% of the ounces. It's really makes everything work with it. And so it's these things all have their own unique characteristics to them, but they're all the same kind. They're all epithermal systems.
Okay. And then why don't we just talk about what the plan is at the moment? So do you still have any assays left to come back, or is...
Yeah, well, we did a couple financings this year. After the first one, we started a 5,000 meter program. We have 50,000 meters designed overall. We started a 5,000 meter program, did a second financing, and then increased that program to 20,000 meters. So right now we're drilling with 2 rigs. We're 45% into that program now. We have released up to hole 164, which is about 17 holes from the end of last year. And so you're going to see continual results now until the end of the year on that program.
That's exciting. Nice.
Yeah.
And is that mainly on this D zone that we were showing earlier, or what's...
I'd say over 50% will end up being on the D zone.
And the others is more sort of these other veins that we were showing that are in the same proximity.
For example, like the B vein, which is not very far away, and there's intercepts there like 4.5 meters at 1,200 grams, and no follow-up yet. So we're going to be stepping off of that, see what that turns into. And there's a few areas we haven't drilled that we really like because their surface characteristics have similarities to the D vein structure. Okay. So we're hoping they may turn into another one of those.
Okay. All right. Well, look, there's always a lot of potential with, or there's a lot of value to be created through the drill bit when successful. And I think you've obviously got something going on here. There's a system here, and I think the more drilling you do, the more likely you are to find something pretty special and build up those ounces. When you were talking about potentially doing a mineral resource estimate, I think next year, why don't we just say, for example, we were sitting down this time next year at Beaver Creek. What would you like to be able to tell me that you've done in the last 12 months?
Well, it'd be great to have a maiden resource out and an update, and be talking about an upcoming PEA. That'd be a good place to be.
That'd be pretty good.
It'd be maybe a little aggressive. You're going to need an awful lot of drilling for that, but that's 12 months. That's doable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I won't hold you to it, but if there is a PEA this time next year, I'll be very excited to see it. Jim, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.